For today's Equip Tip, we look at the next step of the HERE journal that our discipleship groups use every week. Last week, we explained that the H in HERE stands for highlight. Check out the church's Facebook page for the tip from last week if you missed that one. But this week, we are going to look at the E, which stands for explain. Highlight, then explain. By this point in your journal, you would have picked out a verse or a few verses and you would have written them out. Now, you would, in a few sentences or longer if you like, you would explain the context of the verses and what it's really saying within that context. So in our passage for last week, you might, maybe the one that we had the sermon on last week, maybe you highlight the first part of 1 Corinthians 5:12, which says, "What business is it of mine to judge those outside the church?" In explaining the context, you would briefly indicate that the Corinthian congregation was failing to properly discipline someone with appropriate church discipline. But here, Paul is clear that we are not to busy ourselves judging the sin of people who do not claim to be Christians. So those two sentences set the stage for the rest of your journal. Now, you could go into more detail if you wanted to about sin, about Paul's indication that we can't avoid unrepentant sinners who never claim to be Christians. The E part of the journal can be as long as you want or need it to be to make sense of what you will write next. That said, we will cover the next part, the A in HERE, next week.